Hello and welcome to BYJU'S IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Let's look into the first question. With reference to by-elections, which of the following statements are correct? It should be held within a period of 6 months from the date of occurrence of the vacancy. Elections need not be conducted if the remainder of the term of a member in relation to a vacancy is less than 1 year. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is both. Why have we taken this practice question? Because we have a reference of the bipoles in this article. So what is this bipole? What is this by-election? When it comes to the elections, what do? We elect a representatives by casting a vote in favor of a political party, in favor of a candidate for a constituency. This particular candidate is elected. Let's take the example of Lok Sabha or the state legislative assembly. How many years is he selected for? He is elected for a period of 5 years. But this person, if he is not able to fulfill this tenure, is not completing 5 years, but there is a vacancy created in this office. That is when by-election takes place. So ideally, when it comes to the Lok Sabha or to the state legislative assembly, this person elected for that particular office will have to serve for a tenure of 5 years, but he does not complete these 5 years. There is a vacancy created during this period. That is when by-elections happen. So what is by-election? By-election is the election reconducted by the Election Commission of India for the same constituency for the remaining period of time. If a person who is already elected, let's say he served about 2.5 years or he served about 3 years, what is the remaining term? The remaining term is about 2.5 years, or it might be 2 years in case he is already served 3 years. In such a case, for the remaining period in that particular constituency, this person will be elected as part of the by-election. When can the Election Commission of India conduct this by-election? Let's say there is a candidate who is elected for the Legislative Assembly or to the Lok Sabha or to the Rajya Sabha or to the Legislative Council. But there is a death of this candidate. In such a condition, Election Commission of India will have to conduct the by-elections. Or we understand that there are different disqualification parameters. If a particular candidate is declared disqualified by the Speaker or by the Election Commission of India, or the court declares that such a candidate's candidature after winning the elections is void, that becomes a position where the Election Commission of India will conduct by-elections in this particular constituency. Or let's say, for example, there is a person who has not attended the parliament or the state legislature and has been vacant for nearly 60 days, is not taken the permission from the house as well. In such a condition, this person's candidature can be declared as disqualified and Election Commission of India can take up the by-elections. Apart from this, we also have vacancy that might be created because of the anti-defection law. If a person is disqualified because of the anti-defection law, in such a case, Election Commission of India can conduct the by-elections. And there are other disqualifications, ineligibilities. If they are in existence, the Election Commission of India can conduct the by-elections. Where is it present? It is present in the Representations of the People's Act of 1951. We have different sections under the Representation of the People's Act of 1951. Let's take the example of section 147 or 149 or 150 or section 151. These sections clearly speak about the Council of States, the House of the People, State Legislative Assembly and the State Legislative Council whenever they become vacant, or it is declared vacant, or it is going to be declared void by the court of law. In such a case, we have the Election Commission of India, which would in this case conduct the by-elections. But there is also an exemption as well. What is this exemption? According to the exemption given in the Representation of the People's Act, if the remainder term is less than 1 year In such a case, the Election Commission of India need not conduct the by-polls or the by-elections in that particular constituency, or the Election Commission of India, in consultation with the central government, also believes that it is very difficult to conduct elections in this particular place. Why? Because of the riots, because of multiple reasons associated in that particular region, insurgent movements, law and order problem. In all these cases, the Election Commission of India speaks to the union government and they feel that elections cannot take place. In such a case, by polls or by elections need not be conducted by the Election Commission. But do remember, the by elections to that particular constituency will have to be held within a period of 6 months from the date of occurrence of the vacancy. So from the date of occurrence of the vacancy, within a time period of 6 months, by elections will have to be conducted in that constituency. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this practice question. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which one among the following statements best describes the Hycean planet? It is a dwarf planet recently discovered by NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite. It is a minor planet between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. It is a habitable planet described as a hot, water-covered planet with a hydrogen-rich atmosphere. It is a new exotic planet outside our solar system in the constellation Cassiopeia. Which of the statements best describe about the Hycean planet? The answer to this is it is a habitable planet described as a hot, water covered planet with a hydrogen rich atmosphere. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article here makes a mention of the Hycean worlds. So what is this? This happens to be a planet. According to few scientists, they predict that there might be a condition where it is habitable. How? Because there is presence of hydrogen, because there is presence of gravity in this particular region which will house some water in this particular planet. So basically there is enough amount of gravity to keep a thick hydrogen atmosphere and also water in this region, and as a result they assume for this particular moment that these planets are habitable. So those planets which are rich with hydrogen and they also have ocean is what is called as Hycean planets, and these are the planets which are about 2.6 times the size of the earth, have temperatures about 200 degrees Celsius, and they also have oceans. These could also support microbial underwater life is what is that we have to understand in reference to these Hycean planets. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following is or correctly matched? Mutualism, both species benefit. Amensalism, one species benefits, the other is unaffected. Commensalism, one species is harmed, the other is unaffected. Which of them are correctly matched? The answer to this is one only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article here makes a mention of the mutualism. First, let us try and understand what is the meaning of mutualism, amensalism and commensalism. There are different types of biotic interactions that happen. What are these interactions? One species will interact with another species. So this interaction between these species, will it help only one species, or it will help both the species, or will it help one harm the other, is what is this biotic interaction all about. This has been given a particular name. So what is mutualism? Mutualism is a concept where there is a biotic interaction where both the species are having some benefits. Let me give you an example. Let's say we have multiple species. One of the species that we can consider is the Rhizobium bacteria as given in this particular article. So what does it do? The Rhizobium bacteria helps the plants. So plants will get the phosphorus, they will also get the nutrients, and at the same time the Rhizobium bacteria which is present in the root nodules of the plants, they are also extracting nutrients as well. So what is happening here? There is mutualism. Mutualism is what? That there is one species relying on another species, both are benefited from this relationship. That is what is mutualism. Then we have commensalism. What is commensalism? One species gets benefited while the other species is itself not affected. The third is called as the amensalism, where one species is harmed while the other species is not affected. What happens? Let's say we have a huge tree. There is a huge tree here. This huge tree is present in a particular ecosystem. There is also a small shrub or a herb. So what happens? There is the sunlight and all the important nutrients from the sunlight is taken by this big tree, but because there is this huge tree, it is not giving sunlight to these herbs or the shrubs. So on one side, this huge tree is not affected, but there is a small herb or a shrub which is affected. So as a result, one species is harmed in the amensalism, the other is not affected. So when you go back and look into the options, you can clearly say when it comes to commensalism, one species benefits, the other is unaffected. When it comes to amensalism, one species is harmed, the other is unaffected. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements with respect to Komodo dragon. It is the largest living lizard species in the world. It is endemic to the Amazon forest. Komodo National Park was classified as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1991. Which of the statements are incorrect? Since it is asking for the incorrect statement, the answer to this is 2 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article here makes a mention of the Komodo dragon. So what is this Komodo dragon? This is the largest living lizard species in the entire world. So this can be very important from your preliminary examination point of view. So do remember, the largest living lizard species in the entire world happens to be the Komodo dragon. Where is this Komodo dragon? This is endemic where? To Indonesia. It is not in Amazon forest, but this is endemic to Indonesia, where it is present in some of the islands of Indonesia like Komodo, like the Rinca, Flores, as well as Gili Montang. It is these islands of Komodo and Rinca where we find this Komodo dragon. These Komodo dragons are the apex predators. The region where they live in, they prey on their prey, and they also have the poisonous venom as well, where it will ensure the minute it hits on its enemy, the prey's blood pressure immediately drops, and this ensures there is clotting and puts the prey into the shock mode. So the Komodo dragons hunt and ambush their prey. It includes the birds, it includes the mammals, it can also include the invertebrates as well. How? Because of the poison in its venom, it would be able to neutralize its prey, and as a result, it is the apex predator wherever it lives in that particular region. What are the threats to these particular species? Because of the human pressure, the forest is slowly being cut down, they are fastly disappearing as well, and as a result, because of the fires and the degradation, there are threats to this particular species. In order to conserve them, the Indonesian government came up with the establishment of the Komodo National Park. So kindly remember, for the conservation, what they came up with is the establishment of the Komodo National Park. This Komodo National Park was established back in the year 1980. So after its establishment, conservation efforts have been taken into picture, and this particular park has also been confirmed the UNESCO World Heritage Site in the year 1991. So if you look into this question, it is not endemic to Amazon forest, it is endemic to Indonesia, it is endemic to the Komodo National Park, and when we look into the other two statements, both are right. So the answer to this would be 2 only. What is this article speaking about? This article is saying that because of the climate change variations, there will be increase of the sea level. Because of the increase in the sea level, about 30% of its habitat will be lost in the next 45 years, and as a result, there will be a shrink of the population of the Komodo dragon. When it comes to its IUCN status, do remember, it is endangered, and this can be very important from the preliminary examination point of view. Now let's look into the next practice question. The national motto of India, Satyameva Jayate, inscribed below the emblem of India, is taken from Katha Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, Aitareya Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad. The answer to this is Mundaka Upanishad. So Satyameva Jayate is taken from the Mundaka Upanishad, and this happens to be a previous year question from the year 2014. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is Jallianwala Bagh massacre. why did the Jallianwala Bagh massacre happen? We have one of the laws introduced by the British during the 1919, which is called as the Rowlatt Act of 1990. This happens to be called as the Anarchical and Revolutionary Crimes Act of 1919. The minute this law came into picture, it stripped number of rights of the Indians. What exactly happened? Whenever there is an arrest, there is a trial process. What is a trial process? You will have the advocates from both the parties. They will inquire, they will investigate, and they'll also put it across the court of law, where the court of law will decide whether this person has committed a crime, anything illegal in that particular jurisdiction. But because of the Rowlatt Act of 1919, what happened? Anyone who is suspected of terrorist activity could be put behind bars for a period of 2 years without any trial as well. And at the same time, the police would be able to enter any of the premises and they would be able to arrest a particular person without any warrant as well. As a result, what did it do? It stripped away the rights of the Indians back in the year 1919. So what do the Indians do? The Indians were not happy with this particular legislation. They started boycotting the British products. They also said that we have to go against the British. That is why we have Mahatma Gandhi ji who organizes the Rowlatt Satyagraha. But this particular movement or the Rowlatt Satyagraha was cancelled over a period of time. Why? Because Gandhi ji realizes that when this particular act came into picture, when people were going against this act, there were large scale riots that happened across the length and breadth of India against this very act. But this was more when it comes to Punjab. So the British government's primary intention was to repress the growing nationalist tendencies. So they came up with this particular legislation. So India went against this particular legislation. There was Rowlatt Satyagraha during this period, and because the Indians did not like it, they wanted the government to withdraw this legislation. And during this process, there was a large scale riots that had taken place in multiple regions across India. But one of the incidents that happened during this process is what is called as Jallianwala Bagh massacre. What happens? There was Baisakhi festival that was being celebrated. A crowd of non-violent protesters had gathered in this region, but they didn't know that there was martial law in picture. They just wanted to celebrate the Baisakhi without knowing that there was martial law. They entered the premise of the Jallianwala, and as a result, we have General Dyer along with his troop who opened fire on the unarmed crowd. So this particular issue created a larger disaster during this period where large number of people were killed. These people were innocent souls. They did not know that there was martial law in picture, and unfortunately India lost thousands of people because of an act of General Dyer. This is what is called as Jallianwala Bagh massacre. So the indiscriminate firing went for about 10 minutes, killed as many as 1,000 people and more, and this tragedy shook the conscience of entire India. National leaders condemned this, and at the same time, what we see is that this becomes one of the grave incident in the history books of India. So this is what is Jallianwala Bagh massacre, and now what is the context? The government has renovated this site. So the question that is being asked is it right for the government to renovate this historical premise, or the government should go ahead with the renovation plan? There are multiple reasons that we can look at. One, there are few people who say yes, they have to renovate it. Why? This is required for the longevity, because we understand what the martyrs went through. There might be some places which needs to be connected for multiple decades, so government renovating this place is the right one. But there are others as well who also say that such should not be done, as we would not be able to recollect the past. If you look into this particular image, it was this narrow line is where that people were passing through during the 1919 and the firing took place. But what do we have is a new renovation. So some of the political thinkers also say that we won't be able to remember the history, because history has to be the way it is, and if it is renovated, we will forget our history. What we will remember is the changed renovated form, which might not help the future generation, says some of the political thinkers. So what should ideally be done? Renovations of national heritage should be done, but this should be only limited to strengthening the structures to increase the longevity, but that should not change the overall appearance in this particular region, is what is that we have to understand in reference to this article. So this is it for today. today. Thank you for watching. All the best.